What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Still Straight Fire Running podcast. Today, we are joined once again by Wes Porter, this time shortly after qualifying for the World Cross Country Championships, which will be held in Tallahassee, Florida in January. Wes, thank you for joining us again.
Of course. Thanks for having me back. Excited to get into it.
Yeah. So, talk me through that race. How are you feeling going into it? And at what point did you start to believe you really had a shot of making the team?
Yeah, going into it, I think like fast or like back up a few weeks before, like training's going pretty well, and like things are clicking and like like this is, we're in a good spot. And I don't know what is good shape in for a 2K relay for like a
Yeah.
2K cross country race, but training was going well. Things were feeling like we're hitting good splits, getting through the workouts, like not exhausted by the end. And so like that was kind of like felt like I was had a good spot or a good chance to put myself in it to make the team. And then kind of like right before, like 15 minutes before the gun went off, I was just like, this is like, I don't know, like let's just go for it. And again, like nothing to lose, kind of just, what is a 2K cross country race?
Yeah.
And then yeah, went out pretty hard. And then at like 400 in, like usually that's kind of, I feel like where it settles for like your 8K, 10K. And then I
Hmm.
was like, well, we got 1 mile to go here. So,
Yeah.
and I think kind of at maybe 500 to go, I knew I was like going to be in a good spot to like I contend to make it. And then when we got to the top of the hills and I like took a little look back and I didn't see anyone for a second. And then it was like, oh, like I think I'm gonna do it. And
Yeah.
then kind of just like from there builds on a little bit. But yeah, I think maybe whatever that is, like 200 to go at the top of the hill or something. So I think that's when I was like, oh, we're
Yeah.
gonna make it.
No, absolutely. So, Glendoveer is like a pretty historic course. Did you ever race there in high school?
I did not know, didn't I got close my senior year to making NXN, but never made it, so never been
Yeah.
out there.
How's your first experience out there, and what was the NXN experience like that with that going on at the same time?
Yeah, it was good. It was, I mean, it's super cool. I think anytime that there's like a place that's like really into running, like that's
Hmm.
just awesome. And a lot of good energy there. Expected a bunch of rain and it to be really sloppy, which it was to an extent, but not too bad on the day. Like honestly, it could have been a lot more rain. But yeah, super cool. And actually a guy from my high school had made an XN. And so my high school coach that coached me was there, like kind of to help with him. And they obviously raced before us that day. And
Hmm.
he's a sophomore in high school. And I was like checking the results and kind of just like skipped by the first like 20 people. Like I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like a good day's like maybe like 30th or something. Like that's kind of where I started looking. Got to the bottom of the list, didn't see his name, and I was like, uh-oh. But he ended up getting 10th, which was crazy.
Dang.
So it was kind of it was like a special day, like I think to be able to celebrate like with my high school coach who also had another guy there who did like extremely well, 10th in the
Yeah.
country, sophomore, like wild. So it was overall a great experience there.
No, that's a huge day. And how is your like high school historically? Was he pretty much the first athlete to go to a national meet? Do you think he got some encouragement from you in your success?
Yeah, I mean we've had our high school, that same coach, Coach Dirks, kind of like started the program, like started coaching maybe in the early 2000s, and it's kind of like built from there. He they qualified as a team last year, our high school, which was the first time they had ever done that. And then he made it as an individual, Jack. So I think like it was kind of just slowly building, and people, they had never won state until my freshman year of high school.
Oh,
And
wow.
then now it's like it just kind of is like snowballed from there. And that
Yeah.
was like 9 years ago. So, it's crazy how fast like never won state to now team makes NXN, individual makes NXN, like crazy progression.
No, absolutely. And I know you're obviously going to be putting a lot of emphasis on these upcoming world championships, but are you going to get to go home at all over break and maybe see some of those guys?
I am, yeah. So I'm in. Baltimore right now, and then gonna go back next week to Kansas City, and so probably get to run with those guys from home.
Oh, no.
Not a ton of people like the friends I used to run with, like when I would go home, are kind of all like dwindling down a little bit. They're enjoying the different parts of life now. But yeah, I'll probably get to run with a few of those guys still running in college and maybe Jack. So I'll be home for like a few weeks and then go back. I'm gonna go down to Florida like a week early and then enjoy some warm weather and get
Absolutely.
the last big sessions in and yeah, get ready for that.
Yeah, for sure. So more traditionally, like you've been seen as kind of a true like 1500 runner, stepping up some into the 5K during the outdoor seasons. But this year you opened up, you had your pro debut running an impressive 10K on the roads, and then you obviously had this incredible 2K on the grass. What went into your decision to focus on these races rather than gearing your training towards like more like track work during your first season as a pro?
Yeah, for sure. So like my last track race was USA's outdoors, and I'd just done so many things that whole season, just 1500/miles basically the whole way. And it was like, okay, let's just build like a great base. And like for me, like, I kind of took some time down and then have basically built from like late August and still like building through now. And so it's been nice to just put like a super healthy, insanely big block together. And so just like the amount of like high quality volume and stuff, I think is like leaned itself a little more towards longer stuff. And doing that like 10K, it was kind of like a fun, like
Yeah.
let's just do something different, low pressure, like not super hard, but like get out there and like try to close well in that. And it's kind of a nice way to like intro into the season. And then doing this, yeah, when I saw like this they were going to actually have a trial for it, I was like, oh, like I think like this is something I'm super interested in, like definitely going to keep an eye on. And it was just like an opportunity to try to make a USA team, which
Hmm.
like I thought, I would have a shot at, like have a decent shot at. Like I was like hard to not give that a go, even with
Yeah.
it being across the country. Like we were like Damien and I kind of sat down and we're like, let's see if we can do this. And Foster was already going for Canada. And we'll find out if Fogg makes it pretty soon if they select him. So it was kind of a cool thing. We were like, oh yeah, let's try this. So get away from the 15/mile for a little bit. But the 2Ks, probably a little more like a track 3K, but still I feel like pretty comfortable. And then we'll probably focus a little more on the mile stuff come outdoor and indoor. A
Gotcha.
little. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, that'd be great if your teammates get to go down there too, and you guys get a true training camp in the warm weather. It would be going in, especially at this time of year. But this will be your first time representing Team USA. What does that opportunity mean to you, and how does it feel to compete for your country on the world stage and at like on home soil too?
Yeah, I mean it means a lot to me. Like that was a goal that I had like in high school, is just like uh just to be able to wear like a USA kit, like just is such a cool thing. And you kind of like come to the terms like, oh, maybe that's just not an attainable thing. And obviously a 2K relay is not the same as, representing them at the Olympics, but it's such a cool like, I don't know, like a first step to it.
Yeah.
Um, and like kind of like feels like that's like, oh, okay, check that box. And I'm just like so excited to like wear that on my chest
Yeah.
and like, you know, like have people watching. And a good amount of friends are coming to the race in Tallahassee. So it's like it's pretty special. And I think like the moments like after that I had crossed the line, like it, it kind of like sinks in a little more. Like you're in such a competitive headspace. And then it like, you kind of, your adrenaline's, dropping a little, like and it like kind of sinking in. And yeah, pretty cool moment. Like I've always been a team aspect. Like that's been one of my favorite things, like focusing on team. And then, this is like basically the biggest stage you can do that, representing the country. So yeah, pretty excited for it.
No, for sure. And so speaking of that team aspect, obviously you're a UVA alum and UVA, UNC, you guys have that head-to-head rivalry. And for the past 5 years, I'm sure that Ethan Strand has been just one of your biggest competitors and biggest rivals. So what is that going to be like transitioning from competitors to teammates now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm stoked. It's actually funny. I think you can kind of see like in the little finishing clip, like the 2K race, like I crossed the line and I'm just like, yes, like kind of made it. I'm like, oh yeah. And then like my next thought is like, oh, let's go, it's gonna be Strand and I. Like
Uh,
that's what an awesome like a teammate to have. And I like his success has been great and he's gotten the better of me a few times. So it's nice that we'll be on the same team for once. Excited for that. And yeah, I mean it's just such a unique like race. Pretty excited to just to give it a go. Get some other countries are kind of stacking their lineups too. So excited to give it a go against some of the world's best.
Yeah, no, watching y'all come down that final 100 to 200 meters after those two hills, I was like, okay, it's going to be two ACC guys, but I was wondering what that reaction was going to be like. And then you guys both looked at each other, and I kind of got deja vu from him and Liam Murphy actually after the trials, where it just was kind of an instant, like you mentioned before, that switch seemed to be instant, whereas like competitors and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you guys have these huge smiles on your face. You're like, wow, we're about to be like teammates here. So that was great to watch. But kind of continuing to go off that team aspect, do you guys have any plans set out to meet up and do some training together leading into the race, or is it more individually with your mission run team?
I think it'll be a little more individually. Like hopefully we'll get down there. I'm not exactly sure what Strand's doing beforehand. Um, if he's coming like the few days before, but I'm gonna go down like just a little early with the weather in Kansas City slash Baltimore is not the most reliable
Yeah.
in early January. So as the 800 group of the 800 Baltimore group is going to be down there training at IMG. So it's like pretty easy access
Hmm.
uh, to a track and good weather. So I was like, oh, perfect. And it just snowed in Baltimore today. And I was like, oh, I'm excited for Florida.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
it really gives you something to look forward to.
exactly, exactly. But hopefully, like we can, like I'm sure, I think we fly down like, or like the whole team will be there a few days before. So I'm sure we'll get some runs in and maybe some practice.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's baton or a bracelet or I'm sure we'll go through all the fun little parts of it.
No, for sure. You guys got to get whatever handoff practice it may be. You guys have
Yeah.
to get ready for that. I guess the last time you did a relay would have been the indoor DMR championships when you obviously became a national champion. So, what is that kind of fueling your mindset going into this next relay where you're like, man, you got to back that up now?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, that I hadn't thought of that, but it is kind of it's fun. Like I mean, relays are just so cool to do, just especially distance ones. Like you just don't get that many opportunities. Like it's really the DMR and like a pen relays, something like that. And that's kind of the only shots you get. So I think it's cool. I always enjoyed doing them in college, and we'll see what that we end up doing with the order. I'm pretty sure it goes boy, girl, boy, girl.
Okay.
So, be first or third. And yeah, just excited to like there'll be such a cool thing just running and I think it'll be a little reminiscent of the DMR indoors too. It's like I feel like especially if it's that first leg, like everyone's kind of feeling each other out, but
Mhm.
like someone's eventually going to take off and you're jostling for position a little and we'll see how it all turns out on a 2K cross country course versus, a 1200 on an
Yeah.
indoor track.
Both odd distances, but
Yeah.
I think the 2K on grass is even crazier than the 1200.
Yeah, I think so too. It's such a bizarre like when we sat down the day before the US race
Hmm.
and our coach um, Corey Leslie was like, you just got to be willing to hurt for 5 minutes. And I was like, wow, it really is going to be like it's just like a five
Yeah.
minute race, which I feel like in cross country you're just like so used to like, all right,
That's
this is
when the
going to
race
be
begins.
20 minutes of pain. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it was just it's so bizarre. And yeah, just kind of funny how it all played out too.
Yeah, true. And luckily there's a girl closing the DMR, so it's not a complete full circle moment where you're watching Gary and Ethan at the end. That'd be just too crazy if you were also watching Ethan anchor to hopefully a victory this time. But
Yeah, it
um,
would be, yeah, some crazy deja vu. And like you tell me back in March, like, oh yeah, in like what, 10 months, like you'll be cheering for Strand to outkick everyone. That'd
yeah,
be cool.
would have never expected that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
But kind of going back to your training, so obviously in undergrad for the past 5 years, your fall season has been focused on cross country, and you switched to the pro level, and you're still focusing on cross country during the fall season. But how has your training as a professional differed from when you're in college, and what have like the biggest adjustments been for you?
Yeah, I think training wise, probably number one biggest thing, like just less racing. You like in college, you're trying to run well so many times, and even like the mid-season meets, like your nutty comb, your pre-nats, like you're looking for a decent performance there, and obviously your coaches are trying to peak you later on, but like a conference meet and stuff, like you're going balls to the walls for that.
Yeah.
Um, and then you talk about regionals, and then following up the next week with nationals. And some people like really thrive off of racing a lot, like Rocky, like the season he had is so impressive. But I think one thing for me was like it was just nice to like just put together a super healthy, nice big block. And I think I like that adjustment a little more. And you can like really get excited for like I was just so pumped to race, like
Mhm.
both in Baltimore and especially for the 2K. And just like your whole life is centered around training, pro life, which can be a little crazy at times, but it's nice that I'm not worried. I'm not stressing over a group project or an exam, and I think that like makes it a little easier,
Mhm.
and then in the pro life, you're like looking for more stuff to do to not just keep your mind on running 24/7. But
Yeah.
and meanwhile, like the student athlete's a little more of, you know, academics, running, and a social life. So trying to look for a balance in those three. And the pro life's a little more like running's number one, and then you're everything else after that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what was it like going back to Glendoveer and seeing some of your old college teammates for the first time in a while? I know especially Jacob Hunter, and he was out there in the race and he rounded out the top 10 of that 2K. But what was it like to race alongside him on the grass again, but this time in different uniforms?
It was cool. I mean, it was awesome. Like I told him I was doing this, and he was like, "Oh, it's like open. Like, should I do it?" And I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
definitely." So I mean, it was great to see him again. Like pretty cool. Like I said, with being there with my high school coach, like has seen me through all my stages of growing up, like a pretty full circle. And then Jacob there, um, and like some of the parents as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a pretty special moment to like just all be there, and then get to like pre-meet together, race, and then like we went and watched the UVA game that night
Oh
and just
man.
hanging out and stuff. So it was like a cool like little reunion, I guess, after
Mhm.
that. So and I'm glad he came and did it. So don't get to see him as much anymore, him being in Boulder, but it was awesome to see him and get 10th in the country.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that was great. And once again, the full circle of everything with him competing at NXN in high school and then
Yeah,
coming back is now it's him as a pro. It's crazy how the world works like that.
yeah, no, it is
Um,
wild.
but yeah, so going back kind of to Baltimore and your training as a professional now, you mentioned that obviously running is going to be taking the priority day in and day out. But like you said, you can only train so much. There the other 20 hours of the day that you're not doing anything. What does
Yeah.
that look like? How are you biding your time?
Yeah. We try to find stuff to do. Like I feel like the first few months it was just like getting settled, getting everything moved in, and that like would take some time. And Foster and I like we're the ones that are probably here the most, and so we've watched a lot of football. Like that's kind of our go-to. He's watching New Girl right now, which
Okay.
run can do like 10 episodes in a row, and I'll watch a few of those with him. So yeah, I'd say like TV is slash video games is our as probably like the number one. But we go out and do stuff every once in a while. out stuff in Baltimore. There's this like cool little Christmas village downtown, like with little vendors and like a Ferris wheel and stuff. So if you can picture something like that. So went and checked that out. But yeah, kind
Sounds
of
straight out of New
explore.
York.
Yeah, yeah. Like just checking out little stuff like that. Yeah, staying a little busy, but having enough time to recover and doing that. Take our mind off running for a little.
No, for sure. It's so easy to just get wound up in the running, and that's one thing that so many people don't understand is when you're living that lifestyle, there's only so much you can put into it at all times before you get burnt out. What advice would you give for someone who's kind of in a mindset where they're just so locked into running and they can't seem to take their mind off of it? Is there anything that you would recommend them do to kind of get out of that phase?
Yeah, like first I'd just say like I admire the dedication. Like obviously that's tough. And when you um like you want to do everything to give yourself the best chance to run like the best you can. But obviously there comes a time where it's like you're overwhelmed. It's overwhelming and it's hurtful like mentally to have to be just like so locked in all the time. So yeah, I think my advice would be just like don't be afraid to like just like don't feel like you have to be 100% all the time. Like if you want like if you're like so strict about like not eating dessert or something, like feel like have a dessert, like have the Christmas cookies or whatever. Like you don't want to be on your feet. Like go like every once in a while go and do something. Because yeah, I think if you're just like trying to do everything 100%, like you want to strive to be as best as possible, but I mean, it just takes a toll mentally, and it's hard. You can't be locked in for like 6 straight months. Like,
Uh,
maybe before the big race, like then you start really honing in on the stuff. But yeah, I'd just say like don't don't feel bad doing that stuff. And I think as runners, sometimes like you feel a little guilty doing, going and doing stuff. But yeah, I'd just say like don't feel like don't beat yourself up over it, I guess.
Yeah, no, especially during the holiday seasons. I know that's something that people get so worked up about. But the important thing is, especially for most runners right now, they're focusing on March. It's like if you skip a couple runs over Christmas, it's
Yeah.
obviously you want to get everything in, but if you're traveling, it's so important to just maintain that balance because what really matters for most people, obviously, most people aren't racing January 10th, but
Yeah,
March is where they're kind of looking. But
exactly. And I
yeah,
just say
so sorry. Go
sorry,
ahead.
yeah, just like with that, like yeah, I used to be like kind of a stickler on like, oh, I'm supposed to do my 4 miles today, and then you get caught traveling, get delayed a few times. No matter what time, like if I was gonna do it, like I'd find a way to go get the 4 miles in. And I think when you just like look back a little bit, you're like, that's not going to be the difference. And go get a little rest, get food and stuff like that, and don't feel like that number, like your body isn't gonna know the difference on that stuff. So like running more is not always the priority.
Yeah. No, definitely important to get all the training in, but when it there comes a point when sometimes it can be more detrimental to get out the door. So going back to these championships, you're coming into this race somewhat of an underdog with a lot of people expecting you to not make the team. Does that give you any added motivation heading into these championships?
Yeah, I would say so. Like I don't really take it as like a diss or anything. Like with at USA's, like I think like pretty objectively, like if you just looked on paper, like that's probably not a team I'm supposed to make. Obviously, like I thought I 100% could make that team, and everyone that had saw our training would probably have thought the same. And like my full mindset going there was like that we're gonna try to win the race and make the team. But it does like it helps to get the counted out, and like the other people on the team are obviously little bigger names than I. So, want to make sure I do my part and, exceed expectations. And yeah, I think it's some nice things to just like, when it gets hard like that's a nice little thing to think about, like just feeling like you're getting counted out a little, and a little extra motivation when yeah, and maybe when it's one of those things where it's a little cold outside and you don't feel like running on that day, and it's like a little motivation to get it done and get all the work in. do a little extra core or something like that.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, going just like focusing on your training leading into this race, was there any one workout where you were just like, okay, man, I'm fit, I'm ready to go? Or is it more of an accumulation of just stacking so many solid sessions?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. Probably 2 months ago-ish, I did like 17, did like a progressive long run, 17 miles, doing like the last 10 at like 5:25-ish, and not feel like that was hard, but not like I could have gone farther if I needed to.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, like this is like we're starting to like round a corner that like I haven't been able to do this stuff before. And then just a lot of sessions of 10 by K at like 2:55, three flat average with 60 seconds. And like that will be one session in the day. And then we'll either have done stuff in the morning or do stuff in the afternoon. And like at UVA, like if I did that in one session, like that was pretty good. So I
Mhm.
think like that, like those two farther out, like I was like, we're entering like a part of fitness that I haven't achieved before. And it's a little different training, so it's kind of hard to know exactly where you are. But you're starting to get like, okay, like excited about like, ooh, this is different. And then like 10 days out, we did a session and like did a good chunk of work before, and then closed closed it out with like a K in sub 2:30, and like also felt pretty comfortable doing that. And I think that was the day I was like it needs like I need to switch the perspective from like I want to make this team to like I should make this team. Like this is like the one I should be able to do this. And that having that like 10 days out is kind of a nice little like okay, like let's do this. And it's exciting. And yeah, but I think a little combo of those two. And I think a big chunk of that is just doing, lots of quality work before, and then it starts to kind of show itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you mentioned how at UVA that morning session would have been just a solid day's work, and then now you're
Mhm.
coming back to do some extra work in the afternoon. How does your recovery look like or differ now compared to your time during undergrad? And are there any like tools you're implementing that you haven't, or is there anything you're prioritizing more?
Yeah, I'd say, I guess just like high level stuff, I probably do my workout slash harder days now are like harder, both on paper and like physically. Like I'm just like exhausted on those days sometimes than they were before. But then my easier days now, like I take pretty easy. Like I'm not afraid to do like in college, I most runs were at least sub 7 minute pace. And now I'm like completely fine doing like if I don't feel like running fast, like I'll do just 7:30s for an hour for 70 minutes, like whatever the body feels. And I think I trust myself a little more now with not like pushing it. Like I'm just like the fitness is not in these days. It's those bigger days. Like that's when you're really breaking down the body and trying, and then those easier days you're trying to build everything back up. So I think like that big scale was like a huge thing for me. And then I just try to like sleep, I think is just my biggest thing.
Yeah.
Just trying to number one, get the important amount of sleep at night. And then when I need to, like getting naps in on those double T days, like I'd love try to get in like a 90-minute nap that, and I think, yeah, some little tools that help with that, getting massages and little things. But I think sleep, and then like the classic easy days, easy, hard days, hard, like just following that probably a little more than I used to. I think those have made the biggest difference.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so easy for especially like beginner runners to see all these high-tech recovery tools, but it really boils down to just the simples, getting your sleep, getting your nutrition, and not going too hard on your easy days.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But I guess last up here, what's next after these championships? So you have you focused on the grass, and do you have any plans for beyond, or are you just kind of taking like fully focusing on these championships for right now?
Yeah, I was going to do a road mile in Saudi Arabia, actually. I don't know if we talked about that on the first one, but
I don't think we did, no.
yeah. So I was gonna go 2K championships and then 1 week later do Saudi Arabia road mile. But then like after I made it, then we kind of talked about it. We're like, I don't know if 14 plus hours of travel is ideal to like, so instead of that, like you're doing like a 95-mile week instead. So
Uh,
we decided to do that. So yeah, the next thing up though will be the 2K champs, and then probably we'll do Dr. Sanders and then kind of just go from there. Dr. Sanders probably a mile there, try to win that, get the auto bid to Milrose, and then but it can kind of just go from there. Try to do a mix of 3K and mile, and focus on the U.S. champs. I think late February.
uh,
So, but yeah, a few races in there between those two, but kind of see how things look in a month and kind of go from there. But sure it'll be some BU and New York and
oh
a
yeah.
mix of those two, like every person's indoor season, I think.
No, for real. And just because you mentioned the travel, and at this
Mhm.
time of year, obviously it's very big for traveling. What advice would you give to runners who are kind of going through those really long traveling days and just want to do whatever they can to still get in their training and stay on top of their recovery and everything like that?
Yeah, I think like not being afraid to like shift days, like don't be afraid, like if the easy day slash if you take an off day, like maybe that's the day if you're going really far. Like don't be afraid to play around with moving days, moving a workout back a day or something, just like to allow your body to adjust. And I'd say like if you have control, like when you're able to book flights, like being able to run before you go, I think that always helps. And just yeah, if you're taking a bunch of connections, like it's just a gamble on if you're actually going to make it on time to those, and like avoid delays. So I always like to try to run beforehand, stretch out, then kind of just travel the rest of the day if I can. But that's probably out of a decent amount of people's control. Yeah, making the best of each situation, packing snacks, you can pack electrolyte packets and fill the water bottle up at the airport and use those. And yeah, just try to make the best of it. Those days are always tough.
No, for sure. Well, Wes, thank you so much again for joining us here, and best of luck with all your travels this winter and eventually in Tallahassee.
There we go. Appreciate it, Stuart. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.